Plato is generally considered to be one of the first known philosophers to comment on comedy, humour and laughter in a meaningful way. He was also the first person to propose the superiority theory of humour, which has been a central humour theory that has influenced many other humour philosophers and thinkers up to the present day. Plato also considered humour to be at odds with our ideal state, which is one of seriousness and intellect. His view of humour was therefore broadly negative, and he was quite cautious of the use of humour and laughter, and believed that laughter and humour should be something that should be controlled to ensure that we can function and act and think in a more serious intellectual way. So if you're looking for early philosophical theories of humour, Plato is a great place to start. So in this video I'll be exploring Plato's relationship with the superiority theory and also considering how he refers to humour in three of his main works: Republic, Philebus and Laws. So without further ado, let's do. My name's Jonathan Sandling. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're returning to my channel, welcome back. Before we look at Plato on humour and laughter, let's just quickly look at who Plato was. Plato was an Athenian philosopher who lived between 428 to 349 BC in ancient Greece during the classical period. And if you'd like to place Plato within a point in history, he was a student of Socrates and he was a teacher of Aristotle. And Plato was considered to be one of the founders of Western spirituality and religion. A logical place to start when looking at Plato on humour and laughter is to look at Plato and superiority theory. This early theory of humour, first proposed by Plato, was supported in turn by his student Aristotle and also later by other prominent philosophers such as Thomas Hobbes. The general principle of superiority theory is that we find humour and laughter in the misfortune of others. Superiority theory occurs as the result of the inadequacies of an individual or group of people, or where there is a deviation from social expectations. Plato believed that humour and laughter was generated through another person's inadequacies and ridiculousness in comparison to our own. This perspective on humour aligns with behaviours such as mocking and teasing and using another person as the butt of the joke. Plato believed that humour and laughter occurred in hierarchical situations where there were power and competency dynamics to be exploited, particularly in Plato's writing in political arenas. In a nutshell, superiority theory is all about one person laughing to make themselves feel superior, to make the other person feel inferior. Superiority theory was the earliest humour theory, and despite its quite narrow perspective, it still remains one of the most cited humour theories today. However, where superiority theory has been associated with a negative view on humour, and it gets linked to things like mocking and teasing and a more malicious use of humour, it's driven a more negative view of humour in philosophy up until the present day, which has been quite problematic for advancing more positive, progressive understanding of humour as we move forward. Let's now look how Plato refers to humour in his work, Republic. Plato explores the relationship between the ideal person and the ideal state, and he considers humour to be something that threatens this. Plato's view of an ideal state is a serious one, and an intellectual state, where feelings and emotions and other such desires can hinder someone's ability to think seriously, think intelligently and think with reason. And Plato considered humour, specifically laughter, to be one of the emotions or behaviours which negatively impacts one's ability to think seriously and intellectually, particularly around one's ability to reason. And reason, by Plato, was considered more important than anything else. Plato writes, "There's a part of you which wants to make people laugh, but your reason restrains it, because you're afraid of being thought a vulgar clown." Plato even considered that the education of others must remove all reference to gods or heroes that use laughter in an excessive manner. Instead, he promoted only the use of serious role models, heroes and gods as being appropriate for the education of others. He took particular issues with the passages in the Iliad and the Odyssey, where Mount Olympus was said to ring with the laughter of the gods. If anyone represents men of worth as overpowered by laughter, we must not accept it, much less if gods. Let's now look at Plato on humour and laughter in his work, Philebus. Philebus is a series of Socratic dialogues which debates the relative merits of a life of pleasure against a life of intelligence. On one side of the debate we see humour and laughter associated with malice and being used to identify and exploit the misfortunes and absurdities of others. And Plato considered that laughing at the inferiority of others and taking pleasure in doing so was morally objectionable. Plato also considers laughter to be something that is pleasurable and something that we are drawn in and tempted by. And in this debate, where a life of pleasure is pitched against a life of intelligence, anything that is associated with pleasure is therefore going to hinder or negatively impact someone's ability on pursuit for an intellectual life. In other words, anything that brings pleasure would disrupt intellectual thought and reasoning. Plato therefore views humour and laughter as something that has the potential to corrupt his judgment and reasoning, which is why, predominantly, he views humour in a negative way. Let's now explore Plato on humour and laughter in Laws. Plato's negative view of humour, comedy and laughter continues in the same way in his writings in Laws. However, he does identify some potential benefits associated with comedic performance. Plato identifies some potential merits in the use of humour when communicating unpalatable truths or communicating serious information that people may not want to hear. In these situations, Plato believed that humour and laughter could expose undesirable behaviours that others could learn from. Plato's early work, Thinking and Philosophy on Humour, set the foundation for humour theory to progress over the following years. However, Plato's negative view of humour has really influenced humour theory in a negative way, and many people have built upon Plato's initial negatively framed ideas. This video is part of a playlist that I've created which looks at humour philosophers, theorists and thinkers. So if you would like to find out more about humour philosophy, please consider clicking this little card here, or I've put a link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more videos like this one, please consider subscribing to my channel. My name is Jonathan Sandling. Ta-ta for now.